Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And like always, you can catch an episode of the Sports Beat Monday through Friday on WQEE 99.1 FM The Key. I'm approaching my 2-year anniversary. I'm going to have a big celebration. But we are here live in Columbus, Georgia. I'm glad that you're joining us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. This is episode 747, just in case you're keeping score at home. And I know you are. And I'm excited about the show. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I know that I did. I broke away from the family. I called the GAPS championship game with Thrift Behringer on Georgia Alabama Sports Live between Calvary Christian and Skipstone Academy. I will get into that game. What's going to happen here on the show is I'm going to break down all the high school football action. I'm going to preview the upcoming semifinal games, and we also have some championship games. And I'm also going to talk about just an absolute crazy weekend in college football. I'm still shocked. I mean, if you're an Auburn fan, I'm sorry. That was absolutely gut-wrenching. And I'm also going to talk about the NFL. Hey, my 49ers won on Thanksgiving. I'm happy about that. And I just got finished a couple hours ago watching just an amazing overtime win between the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Buffalo Bills. And so we're getting ready for a showdown, not only on Sunday. We got the SEC Championship. That's going to be a big showdown. I will get into all the college football playoff scenarios. I'm going to play the what-if game. I'm going to see who could possibly advance. There's really only 8 teams that can make the college football playoff. And there's one team, and you don't know exactly who it could be, but they have a very small outside shot of making the college football playoff. And it's not who you think. All right, let's go ahead and get into the show. Like I always do on Monday, I'm going to start this show talking about high school football. That's what we've been covering on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I can't believe the high school football season is officially over for Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but we still have some teams in the Chattahoochee Valley that are still alive as they punch their ticket to the semifinals. And we even have one team that's playing in the championship at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And let's start with the Central Red Devils. They punched their ticket to the 7A Super State Championship as they get ready for a quest for the blue map at Bryant-Denny Stadium on December the 6th against the 4-time state champion Thompson Warriors. This is a rematch of the 2021 state championship. It's the rematch of the 2019 state championship. It's the rematch of the 2018 state championship. It seems like these two teams are left standing when it is all said and done and the dust is cleared. But Bryant-Denny Stadium, that is going to be an absolute awesome sight. Central got the big win over Mary Montgomery, 21-7, and Andrew Alford, he is starting to play his way into getting a D1 or D2 scholarship for next season. He's only a junior. He's going to continue getting better under head coach Patrick Nix's system. And I'm excited because Central has a chance to win their first state title since 2018 when Jamie DuBose won a state title when Ryan Nelson, the current Glenwood head football coach, was the offensive coordinator. We know about head coach Patrick Nix. His son, Bo Nix, is probably going to be in New York as he is going to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, and Oregon might even get into a college football playoff. And then his younger son, Caleb Nix, is over at Clemson. So he knows quarterbacks, and Andrew Alford is one of the best in the state of Alabama. Central gets the big win. Let's talk about the Carver Tigers on the other side of the river as they were able to get a good win, a defensive struggle against Monroe area, but they were able to win at home 18-14. And guess what? The Carver Tigers advance to the semifinals where they will be hosting a game against Savannah Christian. The reason why is Savannah Christian, even though they've lost 2 games, they were able to get the upset win over Lumpkin County. Savannah Christian was the number 2 seed. Carver is a number 1 seed, so Carver will be hosting that game at Otis Spencer Stadium on Friday, December the 1st at 7 o'clock. And if you're in the Columbus area, you want to see the Carver Tigers make another deep run in the state playoffs, you might want to check out that game. Brookstone, biggest upset of the weekend, defeating undefeated Bullock Academy. And guess what? The Brookstone Cougars are in the GIAA state championship for 4A against First Presbyterian Day. And that game will air in Macon University, five-star stadium in Macon, Mercer University. So congratulations to Coach Rance Gillespie and the Brookstone Cougars for punching their ticket. And we also have Stars Mill. They punched their ticket to the semifinals for 4A as they defeat Central of Haynesville, Central of Carrollton, rather, 35-29. They are going to host Perry on Friday. And we also have Manchester getting the upset win over Clinch County. They are going to host Telfair County because they're both number 2 seeds. Manchester is on the top of the bracket. Manchester is going to be hosting a semifinal game on Friday. And then Schley County, they got the win over Early County, but they will be on the road. A rematch of the 2022 state championship as Schley County will travel to Bowden in the semifinals. How great would that be if Schley County and Manchester met in the state championship? Well, that would be absolutely amazing, and I definitely would try to get to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for that state championship. Some of the teams in the Chattahoochee Valley, their season came to an end. We're going to start with Harris County. They had just an incredible season, more wins than any program in school history. They reached the quarterfinals. However, they fell to Jefferson 35-12. Congratulations to Coach Watson and that Harris County staff for an incredible season. They were just up against a powerhouse in 5A. Downtown Sammy Brown, one of the best running backs in the nation. He had a great game. And Jefferson, they were up 14-12 at the half, but Jefferson was able to come back and just put the game away in the second half. Another team that lost in the quarterfinals was the Callaway Cavaliers. They were up 14-10 against Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald was able to get that go-ahead touchdown. And Fitzgerald moves on to take on Pierce County in the semifinals. Callaway's season ends once again in the quarterfinals, but congratulations to Coach Wiggins and the Callaway Cavaliers on an incredible season. And finally, I want to talk about the Calvary Christian Knights. Thrift Behringer and I called the championship game for the GAPS 2A on the campus of Calvary Christian. It was just an incredible atmosphere. Anytime you're playing on Thanksgiving week, I mean, there's a lot of people that are watching this game, and there was a lot of people in the stadium as well. And Calvary was going up against a very tough Skipstone Academy team. It's hard to beat a team twice. They beat them in Griffin to win the region, but Skipstone did not have their quarterback, Timothy Miller, who is an all-world dual-threat quarterback. He was in the game, and he really made the difference. He made a huge bomb that got a touchdown. And even though Calvary did have a couple of turnovers, it did not result in points by Skipstone. Skipstone did take the lead 21-10. And when that happened, they could have easily put the game away. But Calvary came all the way back. They scored a touchdown. They got a stop. They had the ball back, and they went all the way down to the 3-yard line. It was just an incredible broadcast, incredible excitement. They had a 4th and inches, and that big line for Skipstone just pushed, and they got the stop, and Skipstone wins the GAPS 2A state championship. But Calvary Christian was so close. But we had a lot of fun on the broadcast. Congratulations to Coach Emmanuel Brunson. I mean, we are proud of you just in your first year, making it all the way to the state championship. I know that Calvary wanted to win a state championship. It was very close, but they will be back. They do have some players coming back, and a lot of these players are buying into what Coach Brunson is preaching to them and the program and the strength and conditioning coach that he is, and they just have an incredible staff, and I'm looking forward to seeing Calvary Christian next season. And they are runners-up in the GAP State in 2A. And they'll be back next year. But that is all the high school football in the area. One more team that I want to talk about. The Eufaula Tigers are still alive. They get the 20-17 win over Demopolis, and they will be on the road in the semifinals taking on Gulf Shores. Well, it's time to look at some of the brackets. I didn't get a chance to talk about the brackets in Alabama, but we are going to go ahead and start with the Class 1A playoffs. Remember, all these games are going to be at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The championship is going to be Friday, December the 7th. But we got semifinals. This is 1A. Leroy is taking on Elba, and on the other side of the bracket, Pickens County is taking on Coosa Christian. Now let's go to 2A, where BB Comer is taking on Reeltown. Reeltown got the 41-22 victory over Cottonwood. A big shout out to Philip Jordan. He's going to be on the show this week. I know that he roots for Cottonwood down in Dothan, Alabama, and covers Cottonwood as well. Pisgah is taking on Fife, and that is 2A. Now let's move over to 3A, where Mobile Christian is going to take on St. James. And then on the other side of the bracket, you have Geraldine taking on Madison Academy. Over in 4A, Booker T. Washington. They are still alive in this thing as they got the victory over Jackson in the quarterfinals. They will take on Montgomery Catholic. And then Cherokee County is taking on Westminster Christian. Now let's go over to 5A. We talked about Gulf Shores is going to be taking on Eufaula. In the other side of the bracket, we have the defending 5A champion Ramsey taking on Guntersville. Now in 6A, Saraland, who's one of the top high schools in not just the state of Alabama, but in the country, as they are the defending 6A champions. They are taking on a team that is come out of nowhere. I mean, they won a state championship in 5A, but Pike Road's in Russell County's region. They got a big win, 31-29 over Benjamin Russell in the quarterfinals. Pike Road is going to take on Saraland. And then over in the other side of the bracket for 6A, Parker is taking on Clay Chalkville. Clay Chalkville is a very dangerous 6A team, one of the top 6A teams in the state of Alabama. We talked about Central beating Mary Montgomery. Thompson defeated Hewitt-Trutsville 21-10, and now the stage is set at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Central taking on Thompson. Now let's go over to the GHSA, Class 1A Division 1, where the defending GHSA champion Prince Avenue Christian is going to take on Bryan County. Brooks County is taking on Swainsboro in the other bracket. Now let's go over to Class 1A Division 2, where Manchester is going to take on Telfair County at home. Bowden is hosting Schley County, which is a rematch of the 2022 state championship. Class 2A, Fitzgerald was able to get by Callaway. They're going to take on Pierce County. On the other side of the bracket, Rockmart is taking on Cook. Over in 3A, we have Cedar Grove, that made it all the way to the championship last year, was denied the championship because of replay. They are on a mission to win the state championship, but in their way is one of my favorites to win the state championship for 3A. That's Calvary Day down in Savannah. Another team from Savannah is Savannah Christian, the 2 seed that got the big upset over Lumpkin County. They were able to beat the number 1 seed Morgan County. So Savannah Christian, they are going to travel all the way to Columbus, Georgia to take on the Carver Tigers. Carver got the win over Monroe area. And so Carver is hosting a semifinal game at Otis Spencer Stadium this Friday night. I cannot wait for that game. Now 4A, as Stockbridge, they get the win over Spalding. Stockbridge on the road. They are going to the semifinals where they will take on the 2-time state champions for 4A, Benedictine, who defeated North Oconee in the quarterfinals. Over on the right side of the bracket, Stars Mill out of Fayetteville, Georgia. They get the win over Central Carrollton, and they will be hosting Perry because Perry got the upset win over Stevenson. So Stars Mill, one win away from the state championship, and now 5A. Jefferson advances past Harris County. They will take on Creekside. Creekside was a number 1 seed. They got by Warner Robins. Remember, Warner Robins went to the state championship last year, lost to Ware County. The past 2 seasons before that, they won state titles for 5A. But Creekside, the home of Eric Berry, recent inductee into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame for the class of 2024, his alma mater, that team is in the semifinals. And then Cartersville, the alma mater of Trevor Lawrence, they got the win over the Cinderella story of the tournament. Jenkins was a 4 seed. They were able to get upset wins over Arabia Mountain and Dutchtown, but they came up short as they lose to Cartersville. And Cartersville will take on Coffee, a number 1 seed who also knocked off a number 4 seed, Cass. 6A, as we got Douglas County on the road getting the win over Lee County. They will take on Woodward Academy, who got the win over Gainesville. Gainesville was one of my favorites to make it all the way to the state championship. And so we are going to have a home game for Douglas County. Both are number 1 seeds. Let's go to the other side of the bracket as Marist, number 1 seed, defeats Roswell. They will host Thomas County Central, who got the win over Rome. And finally, 7A, well, we had a lot of upsets. Buford loses to Grayson. So Buford's out. I mean, they were a number 2 seed, but Grayson advances. Milton gets the win over Colquitt County. Colquitt County is one of the top teams in the nation. Colquitt County's out. So Grayson is taking on Milton. Walton got the win over Carrollton. So Walton, which was a number 1 seed, but they got the road victory over Carrollton. Walton will face Camden County, who is a 3 seed. They got upset wins over Newton, McEachern, and then the defending 7A champions. This is probably the upset of the night as Camden County defeats Mill Creek. They will travel to take on Walton. So that is the AHSAA state playoffs and the GHSA state playoffs for Alabama and Georgia. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we got to talk some college football. Iron Bowl, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Georgia Tech. I'm going to cover it all right here on right here on the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. You don't want to go anywhere. Presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. There you go. Welcome back to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm so happy to be here. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I love doing these Monday shows because usually Monday I don't have a guest, and I will spend the entire hour talking about sports. We got high school football. We got college football. We got the NFL. We got college basketball. We got the NBA. I remember right around this time last year, because sometimes I'll go into the archive and I'll listen to shows that I did a year ago. We were talking World Cup. I was with my family during Thanksgiving watching World Cup games. That was pretty awesome. Had a pretty good Thanksgiving, watched football on Thanksgiving Day. On Friday, I broke away from the family to go call the Calvary Christian game with Thrift Behringer. I mean, that was a huge state championship game, and congratulations to Calvary Christian. They came up short against Skipstone Academy, but they were able to make it to the championship game, and I'm just proud of the effort and Coach Brunson and what they have done, and Coach Steve Smith, the athletic director, and the whole Calvary Christian family should be proud, and we are all proud of the Calvary Christian Knights. All right, college football, this started with the Egg Bowl on Thursday. Very, very surprising. Lane Kiffin, not surprising at all, but Lane Kiffin, 10 wins for Ole Miss. I mean, you don't think some college teams are calling him up and trying to give him a shot? I mean, I'd be wouldn't be shocked if an NFL team went after him. But Lane Kiffin is a good coach. Mississippi State does have a new coach. They did fire Dave Arnett, but the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma, Jeff Lebby, is now the new head coach at Mississippi State. But Ole Miss, I think that when I do my bowl projection show, I think that Ole Miss should go to a New Year's Six bowl. They are projecting that they are going to go to the Citrus Bowl, where they're going to face Penn State. But I think that Ole Miss is deserving of a New Year's Six bowl. Let's talk about some of these crazy games on Saturday. We're gonna start with Michigan, Ohio State. So Michigan wins 3 in a row. They defeated Ohio State 30-24. This was a great game. Yeah, Kyle McCord, obviously he was the inexperienced quarterback. He threw an interception early in the game. Michigan was able to capitalize. Ohio State had a chance to try to win it, but Kyle McCord threw another interception. But I couldn't believe the job that Michigan did. Even though Ohio State, they had an answer on third down. Marvin Harrison Jr. was the go-to guy. Travion Henderson had a good day running the football. It was really a back-and-forth defensive showdown in the beginning. I thought that both defenses actually showed up and showed out. But it was Michigan who pulled away. I thought that missed field goal by Ohio State to end the first half was huge. But Michigan wins the game, and they are now in the driver's seat to get a college football playoff berth. I'll get into the college football playoff scenarios because they do play Iowa in the Big Ten championship. But Ohio State, Ryan Day, there's talks, and I know it's crazy because if you look at the winning percentage from Ryan Day, I mean, this is crazy to even think about this. Buckets actually brought it to my point. He's a Michigan fan. He brought it to my point. There's no chance that Ryan Day is on the hot seat after losing 3 straight to Michigan. He is a good coach, and Buckets does have a point, but like I always do, I like giving hot sports takes. I put on my Twitter page, is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Well, Ohio State fans are starting to get restless. The boosters, they might think that if he can't beat Michigan next year. I think that if Ryan Day goes 0-4 against Michigan, I mean, he's won against Michigan, but if he goes 4 straight against Michigan, yeah, he's definitely on the hot seat. Great coach, but you've got to beat Michigan. I mean, this is why Bill Curry was fired in the 1980s from Alabama, because he could not beat Auburn. He was 0-3 against Auburn. Will Muschamp could not beat Georgia as Florida's head coach. I mean, he finally did, but the writing was written on the wall and he was out of a job. But a good win by Michigan. And I cannot believe the job that they did, in place with everything that's going on. Blake Corum played in this game, but Jim Harbaugh was serving his suspension, and I could not believe just the resiliency from the Michigan Wolverines. And it wasn't the fact that it was in the big house, but what they did. And you got to remember that Sharon Moore, by the way, the offensive coordinator who was filling in for Jim Harbaugh, he is going to get a coaching job somewhere. Incredible effort. Michigan will play Iowa. The fate of Ohio State, they just had the AP rankings, and Ohio State is actually 6th. They got to be rooting for chaos. Can Ohio State backdoor their way into the college football playoff? Well, they got to root for chaos. They got to root for Michigan to lose. They got to root for Florida State to lose. They got to root for Georgia to lose. They got to root for Washington to lose. I mean, they have a case. I think if Texas loses to Oklahoma State, if all that happens, there might be a chance that Ohio State can backdoor their way into the college football playoff. But I think the season is over for Ohio State. A nice consolation gift is going to be the Rose Bowl, so we shall see. All right, I'm ready. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that Iron Bowl. Look, I don't have a dog in the fight, no pun intended. I mean, I'm a Georgia fan. But we do cover Alabama on this show. I mean, this is part of Georgia-Alabama Sports Live. The Chattahoochee Valley actually has a lot of Alabama and Auburn fans. I was in Alabama back in 2005 visiting a friend, and I remember how big this Iron Bowl was. And it's just something about Jordan-Hare on the anniversary of the Kick Six, the 10-year anniversary. It went the other way. I'm completely devastated and heartbroken for Auburn fans because they had the game won. You had the muff punt, and even with that muff punt, Alabama gift wrapped a couple of penalties. They had the illegal pass, and they ended up having a 4th and goal on the 31-yard line. They're calling a 4th and 31. And Auburn rushes 2, and they have everybody back in a coverage, but they don't have anybody in the back of the end zone to, be that security blanket. But Jalen Milroe might have thrown the most perfect pass to Isaiah Bond in the back of the end zone. Alabama wins the game 27-24 to keep their college football playoff hopes alive. I think it's very slim. In fact, ESPN has got them a 9% chance of making the college football playoff. Okay, well, I actually think they got a pretty good shot at beating Georgia. Now, if they do beat Georgia, I'll get into that whole scenario. They're going to need help to get into the college football playoff. Look, Auburn was supposed to lose by at least 2 touchdowns. Alabama was favored by double digits. Even though it was in the Plains, you could throw out the record books when we're talking about the Iron Bowl. Auburn played the game of their lives against Alabama. I thought it was Peyton Thorne's best game. This was a back-and-forth game, and when Auburn was up 21-20 and they kicked the field goal, I thought that Auburn's defense stopped Alabama a couple of times. When Alabama punted the football back to Auburn, I thought Auburn's going to win this game. I felt that way 2 years ago when Alabama beat them in 4 overtimes, that Auburn had Alabama on their heels. Auburn could have derailed Alabama's season, and they could have been completely eliminated from the college football playoff. But that wasn't the case. I feel your pain. I know that Alabama fans felt sick to their stomach after the Kick Six, after Cam Newton came back on them when they were up 24-0. But this hurts. If you're an Auburn fan, this really stings. And I've talked to some Auburn fans. There's some optimistic Auburn fans that say, well, we lost to New Mexico State. I mean, we weren't expected to beat Alabama. 6-6 under Hugh Freeze's first year. We'll take it. And there's some Auburn fans that are optimistic. But I feel for you. It was a gut-wrenching loss, and it really was absolutely shocking. It's not the most shocking Iron Bowl because I still believe to this day that the Kick Six is the most shocking thing I've ever seen in college football. This is pretty much up there. I mean, he had a 4th and forever. It was a 4th and goal on the 31-yard line, and Jalen Milroe just dropped back. He didn't feel any pressure and just laid a dime right to Isaiah Bond for the game-winning touchdown. Unbelievable. Alabama fans are really pumping their chest. And I actually think that they've got a puncher's chance against Georgia. And I got plenty of time to preview the SEC Championship. I'm going to have Phillip Jordan on the show. I'm going to have Ben and Travis on the show. Oh, yeah, they're coming back. Ben and Travis, Travis Creasy, Ben Hayes, they are my guys from Freed Hardman. They have a show. They're going to be on the show. We're going to be previewing that SEC Championship game. I'm going to have John Nelson from GPB Sports. I mean, we're really going to be previewing high school football. But it's going to be a jam-packed week of nothing but guests. And, of course, I have my live shows I do with Rip Barringer on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, which you can also hear on this fine radio station as well. All right, let's talk about Georgia Tech, because I was watching this game too, and there wasn't a time where I thought Georgia Tech could win this game. I thought that Georgia can be in control of this game, even though Georgia Tech ran the ball very well. And Haynes Keene actually played a pretty good game. I mean, Georgia Tech's got a good team. I mean, they're going to a bowl game. They finished 6-6. They had some pretty decent wins against ranked opponents. They also had some ugly losses. I mean, I still can't believe they lost to Bowling Green. Georgia was the better team. They didn't have Brock Bowers. They didn't have Ladd McConkey. I think they're resting them for the SEC Championship. I don't think Georgia was overlooking Georgia Tech for the SEC Championship. It was playing at Bobby Dodd. No surprise there. That was not a home field advantage for Georgia Tech. You had more fans for Georgia than Georgia Tech. But there was a little section where they had some Georgia Tech fans. And Georgia Tech actually played a very good game. Once again, Georgia got down 7-0 on an opponent. You can't do that against Alabama next week because Alabama will make you pay. If anything, Georgia has had double-digit leads on Alabama the last 5 times they played them under Kirby Smart. So I got plenty of time to preview the SEC Championship. I got all week. But I thought that Kendall Milton with 156 yards and 2 touchdowns really was the deciding factor. And Georgia put the game away. And Georgia, they're still number 1. I still believe if they beat Alabama, they'll be number 1. And Georgia should have the right to play into the college football playoff and have a right to go for a 3rd straight national championship. But Alabama can crush all those dreams. There's been talks, well, if Georgia loses to Alabama, are they still in the college football playoff? I think the college football playoff committee doesn't really want to put 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff. Right now, it's a perfect scenario because we have Georgia, Michigan, Washington, Florida State all undefeated. But let's go ahead and get into, Washington survived and advanced in the Apple Cup against Washington State on a last-second field goal, just a gut-wrenching performance. Michael Penix Jr., he's a Heisman candidate. I think the 3 players are going to be in New York. Michael Penix Jr., Jalen Daniels, and Bo Nix. Those are going to be my 3 Heisman finalists. Washington gets the 24-21 victory over Washington State. Florida State, without Jordan Travis, they survived. They knock off Florida in the swamp, 24-15. They're still undefeated. They'll play Louisville in the ACC Championship next week. Washington plays Oregon in the Pac-12 Championship on Friday. Oregon is a favorite. So I actually do have some scenarios if all the favorites win. So if all the favorites win, my 4 college football playoff teams are going to be Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Oregon. Because if Oregon wins, they are a Pac-12 champion. And on the outskirts looking in would be Texas. Texas would not get in because right now, Oregon is ranked higher than Texas. I don't think the playoff committee is going to jump a team. They might jump Alabama if they beat Georgia because Georgia's the number 1 team. Alabama could leapfrog an undefeated Florida State. This is if Alabama wins. Alabama could leapfrog Texas and Oregon, but the big controversy is Texas has got the head-to-head with Alabama. So there's plenty of time to talk about that. Some other college football news, Mike Elko becomes the new head football coach at Texas A&M. And then we got some local college football to talk about in Georgia. Mercer wins the FCS first-round playoff game against Gardner-Webb, but they will travel on the road to take on the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State next week. Georgia State and Georgia Southern both lose, but Georgia State loses to Old Dominion. Georgia Southern got clobbered by Appalachian State. Both teams 6-6, so they're both going to make it to bowl games. I mean, we actually have, I can't believe it, this might be the first time in history where Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern all make it to a bowl game. I mean, that's pretty cool. I like seeing that because all the talent in the state of Georgia, they leave the state of Georgia. I like to see them stay, and all these Georgia schools become competitive. All right, going to go ahead and take another break, but when we come back, got to talk about the Falcons getting a big win over the New Orleans Saints. But Falcons fans, are you satisfied? Because there are some thoughts about this game, some takeaways about how the Falcons played. So we're going to talk about that right here on the Sports Beat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, presented by Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm so glad that you're here as you are listening to us on WQEE 99.1 FM The Key. Here's what's on tap for this week, as I'm going to have Philip Jordan on the show tomorrow. Wednesday, I'm going to have Ben and Travis, Ben Hayes and Travis Creasy. They made an appearance back in 2022. We were previewing the national championship with Georgia and Alabama. They are back. I got both of them to come on the show, as they're going to be here on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, it's my high school football preview show with GPB Sports' John Nelson. I'm excited about that. I can't wait for John Nelson to come back on the show, as we're going to preview semifinals in the state of Georgia. But let's get right into the National Football League. This was a must-win game for the Atlanta Falcons, and at times it was very uncomfortable. I thought Desmond Ridder throwing an interception before the end of the half. What are you doing? I was about to tweet, same old Desmond Ridder. And then he threw another interception. I mean, the Honey Badger is just a great player. He had 2 picks of Desmond Ridder. I mean, he's got great awareness. He knows where the ball is. Falcons should have put this game away a lot sooner than they did. I mean, they won 24-15. They're now in first place in the NFC South, but the Saints are a really bad team. Derek Carr is not the answer. I did not have any faith that Derek Carr was going to be able to score a touchdown. Luckily, the Saints kicker kicked 5 field goals, but this game should have been over with a long time ago. The Falcons really made it uncomfortable for Falcons fans. But when they were up 21-15, what was going to the back of my mind was, oh boy, please don't punt this back to the Saints, to give the Saints a chance to win this game. They already lost 2 games in a row because their defense could not hold on to the lead. But the Falcons decided, with that offensive line, I mean, they stepped up. That was their best performance all season. The Atlanta Falcons decided, okay, we're going to run the ball with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. They get into field goal range. They kick a very clutch field goal by Younghoe Koo to make it 24-15. That is your ball game. That is how you close out a game, and that is how you win. Guess what? Even though the Falcons are 5-6, every single game on their schedule is winnable. I think the toughest game they have, they take on the 5-5 Colts with Gardner Minshew. That could be a tough game. They play the Jets next week with Tim Boyle. That is a win. They play the lowly Carolina Panthers. They play the Buccaneers at home. Oh, I'll take that back. Their toughest game might be the final game of the regular season when they have to travel to New Orleans, but they might have the division by then. I believe the Falcons are going to win this division and make the playoffs, which means Arthur Smith's job is saved for one more year. But what do you do with quarterbacks? Desmond Ridder, who has been so frustrating, he's made some good plays. On like a 3rd and long, he'll get out of a sack and scramble for the first down, but he throws some of the most boneheaded interceptions. I just scratch my head. It's like, what are you doing? Some of the other NFL games, I do want to talk about the Thanksgiving games because the Lions just can't find a way to win on Thanksgiving. They lose to the Packers 29-22. Green Bay is actually alive for the playoffs. The Cowboys completely dominated the Washington Commanders, and they are back. They're one of the top teams in the NFC. In fact, I have my NFC playoff picture right now. If the season were to end today, the Cowboys would be taking on the Atlanta Falcons in the playoffs. I mean, that would be a very interesting game. Remember, the Falcons, they played the Cowboys back in 1980, and they lost. So the Cowboys would be a heavy road favorite if they had to play the Falcons in the playoffs, because the Cowboys are a very dangerous team. And then the 49ers. They got a big win over the Seahawks. Yes, Brock Purdy did throw a pick 6, but Brock Purdy didn't have a perfect game. But the 49ers defense stepped up as well. I know that Geno Smith was banged up, but the 49ers are riding with all the confidence in the world. They have a couple days off getting ready for that big showdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just keep on winning because situationally they are a very good football team. 10-1. They came back from a 17-7 deficit, a 24-14 deficit. I mean, Jalen Hurts, he has been clutch all season. Why is he not in discussion for MVP? Jalen Hurts has had an MVP season The Eagles have the best record in football. Nick Sirianni is a very underrated coach, and I thought the Eagles were going to drop off this year because they lost the two coordinators. But you lose Shane Steichen to the Colts, you lose Gagnon to the Cardinals. But the Eagles, they know how to win because situationally they are a buttoned-up team. They don't beat themselves. I still think you can move the ball on their defense. I think the 49ers got to get ahead, and they've got to put that game away against the Eagles. I like the 49ers' chances against the Eagles next week, but it's going to be a very tough game in a hostile environment. The 49ers want to prove that if Brock Purdy did not get hurt in that NFC Championship, that they could have been moving on and going to the Super Bowl. But, Eagles fans will say, probably not. Eagles fans are going to really pump their chest on that one. But looking at some of the other scores, hey, we finally had a Friday game, a Black Friday game. The Miami Dolphins defeated the New York Jets 34-13. Right now in the AFC, you got Kansas City, Jacksonville, Miami, and Baltimore, all with an 8-3 record. It is very tight in the AFC. Who is going to come out on top and get that number one seed? You got two 7-4 teams who I can't believe these two teams are 7-4. The Cleveland Browns, they did lose to the Broncos. The Steelers, who fired their offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, they had over 400 yards of offense, but they are 7-4. Mike Tomlin should be considered for Coach of the Year. I know they're probably going to give it to DeMeco Ryans for the Houston Texans or Dan Campbell for Detroit, but Mike Tomlin has been doing an outstanding job. You got 3 6-5 teams. There's only one playoff spot left. Right now, mathematically, the Indianapolis Colts have that, as they are actually 6-5. I said they were 5-5 earlier. But Houston, Indy, and Denver all 6-5. And then Buffalo, they went down to 6-6. They are a very dangerous team that's on the outskirts looking in. They've got a winnable schedule. They got to win out their games because that was a devastating loss to the Eagles. Should have won that game. They won the toss in overtime. Josh Allen needs to score a touchdown there. First of all, the Philadelphia Eagles kicker, Jake Elliott, boots a 59-yard field goal in the elements. That was incredible. And the Philadelphia Eagles get an improbable win over Buffalo. But looking at the NFC playoff picture, the Eagles right now would be the number one seed because Detroit lost to Green Bay. San Francisco is back at the number 2 seed. Detroit's the number 3 seed. Atlanta currently has hold of the division in the NFC South. Dallas at 8-3. Your two other wild card teams are Minnesota and Seattle with a 6-5 record. But on the outskirts, Green Bay and the Rams, they both got big wins. Green Bay getting the win over the Lions. They're 5-6. The Rams 5-6 after getting a big win over the Arizona Cardinals. And then you look at the other scores in the league. The Jaguars getting a big win over the Houston Texans. I thought that C.J. Stroud was going to come back in that game. You got the Colts beating the Buccaneers. You got the Giants and the Patriots. Oh, boy. I saw something on social media. If you're not a fan of the Giants or the Patriots, why are you watching this game? It was 10-7. The Giants, Tommy DeVito beats Mac Jones. And Bill Belichick, I don't see a scenario where he keeps his job at the end of the season. I mean, this is absolutely awful. The Patriots are 2-9, one of the worst teams in the National Football League. But hey, the silver lining is I'm trying to see who has the worst record in all of football. I think it still belongs, yes, to the Carolina Panthers, which the Chicago Bears would be getting that number 1 pick. But let's say the Patriots just don't win a single game all year, and Carolina ends up beating a Tampa Bay or Atlanta because, those are division games. The Patriots could get the number 1 overall pick, and they could be drafting Caleb Williams, and then we could end up seeing another dynasty. Well, probably not, because I don't think anybody is buttoned up like Tom Brady. I mean, there's really work ethic and everything. It was a perfect marriage, Brady and Belichick. But Bill Belichick has proven that he can't win without Tom Brady. And there, I said it. I know Patriots fans might get mad at me, but that's okay. All right, final segment before we wrap up this show. I mean, I was just jamming through this show talking about high school football, college football, the NFL. We did have college basketball. We got the SEC ACC Challenge coming up. I always love these college basketball tournaments. I was actually sitting in front of the couch watching the battle for Atlantis. And one team that, like, when Thrift and I had our college basketball preview show, I mean, I kind of went out on a limb and said that Villanova might be a dark horse in the Big East. And he disagreed. I mean, Villanova hasn't really been relevant since Jay Wright left. But Villanova did get a big win over Memphis. I thought that was incredible what Villanova was able to do against North Carolina. And then now you look at the rankings in college basketball. You got Kansas with Dickerson. You got Purdue with Zach Edey. And right now Kansas is 1, Purdue is 2, Arizona 3, Marquette. I mean, Shaka Smart is such a great coach. And then UConn. I mean, what UConn did with their run all the way to the championship and winning, I mean, they're definitely a blue blood team. And, Miami is still undefeated. I mean, Texas A&M, I mean, they are on the up and coming. Alabama did lose to Ohio State. I mean, so you did have some upsets. But let's go ahead and talk about the NBA. The Atlanta Hawks, after rattling off 2 straight wins, they lose to the Boston Celtics in Boston 113-103 as Jason Tatum scores 34. Jaylen Brown scores 21. Boston is the best team in the NBA right now, record-wise. The Hawks right now are just a 500 team. I was very impressed. I mean, getting wins over the Nets and the Wizards. And they will take on the Cavaliers in the in-season group play. I mean, right now they are 1-2 in the group play. It looks like the Lakers are probably going to win this just because LeBron at age 39 just playing on another level. I can't imagine anybody that age playing at that high of a level as far as putting up points. I mean, he's dropping 38, 39 points at age 39. It's absolutely incredible. I know people really don't pay attention to the NBA till we get to Christmas, but I'm a fan of the NBA, and I like seeing these teams. Like, a surprise team is the Orlando Magic. They're 12-5. I don't know how long that is going to last, but the Minnesota Timberwolves over in the Western Conference with a 12-4 record, and then Oklahoma City, they've got the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year, Chet Holmgren. They also have Josh Giddey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They got some good pieces. And Oklahoma City is 11-5. I mean, I'm not surprised that San Antonio or Memphis are the 2 worst teams in the West. And over in the East, Washington and Detroit are the 2 worst teams over in the East. All right, well, let's talk about some Columbus State basketball as they dropped a game to UNC Pembroke. They are now 4-2 on the season. And just looking at their record, I mean, it's a good record for Coach Moore and the CSU Cougars. I'm looking forward to this upcoming season. But they were in the UNCP Gift Thanks tournament. They defeated Chowan University 88-84. They lost UNC Pembroke 66-51. They are going to be on the road on December the 6th, taking on Young Harris College, the former Peach Belt conference foe. And then they're going to be in the Bahama House Classic against Embry-Riddle and Palm Beach Atlantic University. So good luck to the Columbus State Cougars. Now let's talk about the Lady Cougars. They are 2-2 on the season after dropping 2 straight in the GSW Classic in Americus, Georgia. They are going to be on the road against Wingate University at 5 p.m. November the 29th. So good luck to the Columbus State Cougars and Lady Cougars. And before I go, I do want to talk a little bit about LaGrange College, because I thought the LaGrange College Panthers have had a good season so far. And, just looking at what they have done so far on the season. Oh, wow. Really? Yeah. So they're 5-2. Yeah, they did lose to Barry, 91-69 last Tuesday, but they will be on the road next Saturday taking on Pensacola Christian. Now, the LaGrange College Lady Panthers, which are 4-2 on the season, they have got an exhibition game. Well, actually not until the 19th. They would take on Georgia State, but they did lose to Oglethorpe in Atlanta, 82-73. I've been to the campus. It's a beautiful campus. That's where the Brookhaven Bucks play. But they will be in the Covenant Classic this Friday against Ashbury and then Regent University. They are back at the Mariotti Gymnasium on Wednesday, December the 6th, taking on Point University in the Cancer Awareness Game. And then now I want to talk about high school basketball because over the weekend, the Carver Tigers put up 115 points against Central Talbotton. Thought that was pretty amazing. But Thrift and I will be on the campus of Calvary Christian this Tuesday as Georgia Alabama Sports Live will be there for the Glenwood boys and girls taking on the Calvary Christian boys and girls. And then on Thursday at 6:30, it's the Harris County Lady Tigers taking on the Pacelli Lady Vikings at the Land. And that is going to be absolutely awesome. And then we are also going to be broadcasting this Saturday, Russell County and Central. So we have a jam-packed lineup of high school basketball. Don't forget, we also have CVCC hoops. The Pirates and Lady Pirates are going to be in action on Thursday. And I am looking forward to all of it. Don't forget, I'm going to have Philip Jordan here on the show tomorrow. And you can catch that here on the Sports Beat. One more final note as I'm doing this Sunday night. End of the third quarter, the Baltimore Ravens leading the Los Angeles Chargers 13-3 as the Ravens try to go to 9-3, which would mean that they would have the best record in the AFC. I know I said before that you got 4 teams that are all 8-3, but we still have a game that is going on tonight as the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Los Angeles Chargers, and they're hoping to get the road victory at SoFi Stadium. That will do it here for the show. Stay tuned. We just have got jam-packed shows all week this week as I'm hyping up that SEC championship between Georgia and Alabama. I've got to go do my research and make my prediction and all that. And then we got high school basketball, and we got high school playoffs, semifinals in Georgia, finals in Alabama with Central and Thompson. Oh, I cannot wait. All right, that is going to do it here for the Sports Beat. I want to thank Ryan O'Neill back at the station for keeping it locked down. Don't forget, we got Braves Country today with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. That is coming up next. Thank you, everybody, for watching the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.